It was a cold December evening, and the Smith family was busy preparing for the upcoming Christmas festivities. Mrs. Smith had just finished putting up the Christmas tree, and Mr. Smith was busy hanging the lights outside the house. Their son, Timmy, had been eagerly awaiting Christmas, and had been talking about a particular gift for months, a childlike doll that he had seen at the toy store. On Christmas morning, Timmy's eyes lit up with joy as he unwrapped his gift and found the doll that he had been longing for. The doll was a beautiful creation with a cute smile and bright, shining eyes. Timmy took it with him everywhere he went and even slept with it at night. But as the days went by, strange things started to happen in the Smith household. The family would often wake up to find that the doll had moved from where they had last seen it, and sometimes they would hear the pitter-patter of tiny footsteps in the middle of the night. At first they thought it was just their imagination, but things quickly escalated. One night, Mr. Smith woke up to the sound of Timmy screaming. Rushing to his son's room, he found the doll sitting on Timmy's chest, its small hands wrapped tightly around his throat. Mr. Smith tried to pry the doll away, but it was as if it had a life of its own. Finally, the doll let go and scurried away into the darkness. As the days passed, the family began to realize that the doll was not just a toy, but something far more sinister. It seemed to be alive, and it was out for blood. The family tried to get rid of the doll, but it always found its way back, seemingly more determined than ever. One night, Mrs. Smith woke up to find the doll standing at the foot of her bed. Its eyes were no longer bright and shining, but instead were dark and lifeless, and its cute smile had turned into a menacing grin. The doll lunged at her, and Mrs. Smith tried to fight it off, but it was too strong. She screamed for her husband, but by the time he arrived, it was too late. The doll had taken her life. After the tragic death of Mrs. Smith at the hands of the possessed doll, Mr. Smith and Timmy were both terrified and traumatized. They knew they had to take matters into their own hands and rid their home of the evil entity once and for all. Together, they decided to destroy the doll. They searched the internet for ways to do so and found that burning the doll was the most effective way. The following night, they gathered all the materials they needed and set out to carry out their plan. In the middle of the night, they went down to the basement where they had locked the doll up. It was sitting there, looking at them with its lifeless eyes, waiting to strike again. Mr. Smith took the doll and placed it on a metal tray, and they both doused it in gasoline. With shaking hands, Timmy held the lighter, and together they set the doll on fire. They watched as the flames engulfed the doll, and as it burned, they could hear faint screams and whispers that seemed to come from the doll. But they didn't stop until the doll was reduced to ashes. After that night, the Smith family moved out of the house and never returned. They couldn't forget what had happened to them, but they were relieved that the evil doll was no longer there to haunt them. They went on with their lives, but they never spoke of the incident again. The memory of the doll and the horror it had brought stayed with them forever, a reminder of the dangers of playing with forces beyond our understanding.